And hello everyone, it is Peter Sam back again with another top 5 video, and today we are delving into two characters who have become synonymous with hatred on this channel, and they are Bill and Ben. Now today I was feeling nice, so I'm doing this video to show that I can find things to like about these two and that they can have good episodes. Although their bad episodes are far more well known. Regardless, let's give these two some praise. Starting with number 5. Bill, Ben and Fergus from Season 7. Now, despite me putting this rather low on my video re-ranking Season 7, I still think this episode does well with the characters of Bill and Ben. Despite them bullying Fergus a bit throughout, it was never malicious, and when Fergus sacrifices himself, so much so that he was unusable from that episode forward, Bill and Ben genuinely do feel like they had remorse. That's what I think Brenner tried the most to emulate during his tenure as the head writer, with Timothy being in Fergus's place. And he went in a direction that makes Bill and Ben out to be some of the worst kind of people. And that's why that version of Bill and Ben didn't work for me. Also, Timothy never went out of his way to save the twins despite their bullying, so I think even on that side of the dynamic, there is considerable weakness. And I think the fact that, in general, Brenner tried to recreate this episode's dynamic is such a proud thing to be able to have, and that's why this episode is in my top 5, despite it not really being all that strong if you look across the entire Season 7 catalogue. Number 4, Double Teething Troubles from Season 5. Now we're cooking with gas and diesel. Now we're moving on to the actual great episodes of the list, and where better to start than with this Season 5 episode. Now, it's no Haunted Henry or Duncan Gets Spooked, but it does rather well at characterising Bill and Ben as these characters who can easily misunderstand things. They mistake Derek's teething troubles for him having toothache and think that that will make him a rather cranky personality, but it turns out Derek is a chill dude and he's just prone to breaking down. It's a rather fun pseudo-sequel to The Diesel, and what's more, I quite like the layout of the clay pits here with the winding track upwards, which is done again in Season 18 onwards. Derek as a character is clearly really weak, which is why he was never focused on ever again, but Bill and Ben are our protagonists here, and they do very well in this type of plot. They're entertaining, but come through and pull an entire train and a broken down Derek out of the clay pits in the end, which is real impressive stuff, which is why I've put it here on my list. Number 3 is Heroes from Season 3. This episode is one of Season 3's most iconic, and for good reason. The clay pits collapsing is epic as fuck, and this is also a great display of Bill and Ben's bravery alongside that. They rescue the workmen despite the very big threat of almost being crushed to death by falling rocks, which is ironic since that threat has reappeared in front of them more times than you can count across model and CGI. And they're just fine. However, poor Fergus meets that threat one time and is never seen again. But yes, this is a very strong Bill and Ben episode. However, the beginning is rather weak for me. It doesn't marry the ending very well, and whilst the inclusion of Gordon adds entertainment, it's rather unnecessary for that moral of how sometimes a surprise isn't for the best. Well, to be fair, the whole first half could be considered rather unnecessary and loose-fitting. Despite that though, nobody ever draws attention to it, and that's because outside of that, it's an incredibly strong episode with good practical effects and a stellar display of these characters. Number 2 is The Diesel from Season 2. You may be surprised that this one isn't number 1, and to be fair, maybe once you see my number 1 pick, maybe you'll disagree with me and think this should be the number 1 episode, but for me, this one just barely misses out. The introduction of Bill and Ben is a great episode, and it really made me want to see more of them, although most of what we got in the end was not that good, let's be fair. This episode also introduces Boko, and he's a fan favourite, and whilst I have to question why, because it's just Boko, it's still an important factor for many people and worth bringing up. There's so many iconic moments too, such as the coughs and sneezels spread diseases line, which everyone remembers, the montage of Bill and Ben tricking Boko, and just that whole vibe of Bill and Ben acting like these heroes rescuing their own trucks, but mistaking Boko for this evil individual and not realising he was just mistaken. Also, you have to love the inclusion of Edward in this one, being the twins' father figure and being able to discipline them so well when others going forward failed to do so. The Diesel is iconic, and I wish I could have had the opportunity to place it in number 1, but again, the winning episode just managed to pull it out the bag entirely. Usually here I talk about our honourable mentions for other episodes that didn't make the list, but I'll be honest, there really aren't any. I hear that Hunt the Truck from Season 22 is a very strong episode featuring the twins as protagonists, but as per usual, I'm sticking to my 3 eras, Classic, Hit and Brenner, so I cannot feasibly feature it. I am sure though that if I did include the Bubba era that it would end up on the list. The other Bill and Ben episodes aren't really all that much to write home about either. No Help at All from season 19, Timothy and the Railroad Truck from season 18, and No Steam Without Coal from season 18 are obvious, cruel mischaracterizations. Buffer Bother from season 6 is often cited as the worst that the classic era ever had to offer, and One Good Turn from season 3 isn't anything special. So unfortunately, we will have to move on to the final, definitive pick, the best of Bill and Ben. Number 1, Bill or Ben from season 17. My personal favourite season 17 episode, and the best Bill and Ben episode in my opinion, is this one, and it's rather forgotten by the community I feel, but it does so well. It's the typical pull a trick on an engine and make them think we're the other, which we've seen before, but done to a completely different effect this time. Previously it was just done to confuse Boko, but that's being done to get one over on Connor, who didn't necessarily do anything bad to them, but you know, sometimes people just need lowering a peg or two. And what ends up happening as a result is way more interesting than in the Diesel 2. In that episode they just make Boko go giddy, or confuse the fuck out of him. In this one the Fat Controller steps in, decides to paint one of them blue, but they even managed to get around that by tricking Kevin into thinking that that event where one of them was painted blue didn't happen, so now they're both fucking blue. And in the end, these little gremlins go right back to fooling Connor, which is a genius way to end the episode. It just really encapsulates the mischievous vibe that they've always given off, and this practical joke is far more crafty and inventive than ever before. It really tests their mettle, the situations they get into in this episode, and that is why it's my number 1 pick for the best Bill and Ben episode in the TV show Thomas and Friends. So that's all for this week. Do you agree with my picks? Do you disagree? Do you think I'm nuts for even attempting to redeem these two little assholes? Let me know in the comments down below, and until next time, I've been Peter Sam, you've been you, and I'll give you a hint. The answer to that final question is yes. Bye.